All right, let's jump right in. There's this tension, this battle that's happening inside all of us, all the time. It's pride versus humility. And it's a really big deal because it shapes who we are, how we treat people, and, well, according to the lesson we're digging into today, it even determines our destiny. So let's figure out what true greatness is all about.
So right off the bat, the lesson kind of hits us with this really personal question, and we got to be honest with ourselves here. The question is, how prideful am I really? I mean, it's super easy to see pride in other people, right? But looking in the mirror, well, that's where things get tough. Let's keep that question in the back of our minds as we go through this.
Okay, so here's our learning route for today. First, we'll talk about why this is a battle every single one of us faces. Then, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of pride itself, what it is and how it works. After that, we'll see how knowing yourself is the first step. We'll look at some incredible examples of humility in action, and we'll wrap it all up with this amazing idea the lesson calls the Great Reversal.
All right, let's dive into part one, a battle we all face. And, this isn't just some dusty, abstract idea. The lesson makes it super clear that this is a real struggle for everyone. It's just a core part of being human, something that affects all of us, every single day.
I mean, just think about it for a second. We've all been there, right? That little urge to look just a bit smarter or more successful or, just plain better than someone else. According to the lesson, that feeling usually bubbles up from this deep need to prove our own worth. But it raises a huge question. What if our value isn't something we have to prove at all?
So if we're all in this boat together, we really need to understand what we're up against. That brings us to our next section, the tight fingers of pride. Here we're going to break down what pride really is, where it comes from, and why it can be so destructive.
The lesson keeps it simple. Here's the definition. Pride is just a feeling that you're more important or better than other people. And that word feeling is everything. It's not about facts. It's not about reality. It's an internal emotion, and man, can those be deceiving. We all know feelings can lead us way off track sometimes.
And wow, does this slide nail the contrast? It's like the two most powerful opposing forces in the universe, side by side. On one hand, you've got the ultimate me-first statement from Lucifer. I will ascend, I will exalt, I will be like the Most High. It's all about climbing up. But then you look at the other side and you see the total opposite in Christ, who made himself of no reputation. He humbled himself. This right here, this is the fundamental conflict we're talking about.
Okay, so that leads us right into our third part, what's the solution? If pride is the problem, how do we even start to deal with it? Well, according to the lesson, the very first step is just taking a good, hard, honest look at yourself. And Jesus told this incredible story, a parable, to show us exactly what that looks like. So the story is about two guys who go to pray. The first guy is a Pharisee, a pillar of the community, a respected religious leader. And check out how he prays. He's standing where everyone can see him, praying out loud. But his prayer, it's not really for God. It's more like a performance. He's just listing all the reasons he's better than everyone else. God, I thank you that I'm not like those people. But then you've got the second guy. He's a tax collector, basically a total outcast. And he can't even bring himself to stand close or look up. His prayer is the exact opposite. There's no list of good deeds. It's just this raw, broken cry for help. God be merciful to me, a sinner. He's not comparing himself to anybody. He just knows he's in deep trouble and needs mercy. And here's the core takeaway from that story. According to the lesson, you can only get help when you know you need it. The Pharisee was so full of himself, he didn't think he needed anything. But the tax collector, he knew he was desperate. And that awareness, that's where everything begins. The lesson lays this out as a fundamental law of the universe, really. It's a clear choice with huge consequences. You've got pride, which God actively pushes against, and you've got humility, which is what opens you up to receiving grace. There's really no gray area there. Okay, so what does this actually look like in a real person's life? Let's get practical. We're moving on to our fourth section, Learning from the Humble, where we're going to look at some amazing examples of what the lesson calls true greatness. Let's take Moses. What a story. He starts out as a prince of Egypt. He's got power. He's got the best education. He's got it all. He's got every reason to be proud. But then he does something impulsive, and his whole world falls apart. He loses everything and has to run for his life. And for the next 40 years, he's out in the middle of nowhere, basically being taught humility by God. It's this long, slow process of stripping away all that pride. And only then, after all that, is he ready to lead.
And this is what he became. I mean, this description is just incredible. After everything he went through, the burning bush, the plagues, the Red Sea, You'd think they'd say he was the most powerful or the smartest, but no. His defining trait was that he was the most humble man on earth. The lesson points to this as proof of just how powerful that transformation can be.
Now, compare that to Jesus' own disciples. Even after spending years with him, they're still arguing over which one of them is the best. It's in that context that the lesson drops this really heavy thought about pride. It says, of all sins, pride is the most hopeless, the most incurable. And you have to ask, why? Well, it's because if you're full of pride, you don't even think you're sick. You don't see any need for a cure. And that brings us to our last and honestly most mind-bending section, the great reversal. This is where we get to the core idea of the kingdom Jesus was talking about, and it's completely backward from how we normally think. So, while his best friends are literally fighting over who gets the top spot, Jesus is just living out a totally different way. He's showing them a new definition of greatness. He was always flipping the world's ideas about success and power completely upside down. His whole life was the lesson.
And this one line, it just sums up his whole mission perfectly. Here's the person with all the power, the one who deserved all the praise, and how does he describe himself? As the one who serves. He totally redefined greatness. It's not about how many people serve you, it's about how many people you serve.
And boom, here it is, the main event, the core principle of this entire lesson. This is the great reversal. See, the way the world works, you get ahead by promoting yourself, by climbing over others. But in God's way of doing things, you're lifted up when you choose to be humble. That is a seriously radical idea that just turns our whole concept of success on its head. So how do we actually do this? How do we get on this path? The lesson gives us a pretty clear summary. It all starts by getting closer to Jesus, because the closer you get, the more you see your own flaws. That makes you realize, wow, I really need help. And what does heaven value? It's not about being the smartest or the most powerful. It's about having the simple, trusting heart of a child. That, according to the lesson, is what real greatness is made of.
And that brings us full circle, right back to the beginning, but hopefully we're seeing things a little differently now. After thinking about this great reversal, we're left with one last question to chew on. Based on all this, what does real greatness actually look like? In your life, in my life, at work, at home? The answer? Well, it just might be the most humbling thing we ever figure out.